to DC Universe, the first ever episode tutorial on how to play each and every role. My name's Infinity, for those that don't know. Welcome to Infinite Gaming. Today I just decided that even though I haven't really been doing much videos with this game or other games, I decided that today I explain to everybody, even though I don't play DC much nowadays because the game's kind of broken, no offense, and I know a lot of people like it, but they also had new updates, even though the game's been out for probably 6 years, I'm guessing, which I was right about, maybe. It was a 6th anniversary, something like that. Today, we're going to get into it and talk about how to play every role. Now, I know it may look like I'm showing you how to be a mental, but no, today we're not talking about that. Today we're talking about how to play a specific role, and by specific, I mean how to learn how to be a certain role, meaning tanks, healers, controllers, and of course, DPS. Now, for most people that don't know most about what certain roles are, what they mean, what's the short nickname, the original name for them, even though they have nicknames, I will explain everything. So pay close attention to what I'm about to explain to you on how to be all types of roles. Now, keep in mind, I may not know much about the roles because I don't play with much. I mean, I know as much as I can. So please don't judge me if you're leaving a comment in the DC section of the game, or even in the YouTube channel, or like, in the comments in the YouTube video, telling me that, oh, I don't know this or that. Just try to give me some hints, give me some tips. You can add in extra stuff if you like. If you have a comment, leave it there. But let's get into it. So, first thing we're going to explain, and how I explain them, is what I do is I just hit options, even though this is a PS4, by the way. And I go over to 8-player, and then this is how I do it. So I'm just going to use this for example. You may not see it too well, but I'm going to explain it, okay? So here we go. The first thing we're going to talk about, well, before we get into that, though, I just want to let you guys know I'm a really experienced healer, but I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, start out with tanking. Tanking is probably the biggest thing in the game. Tanking is one of the most toughest jobs, no matter what. So, what is tanking, you might ask? Well, let me explain it right here. It tells you right here in the role. Tanking. The tank role is to keep the enemy's attention and damage focused on you and away from the rest of your team, which means you pretty much have to pull aggro, period. So the way to read that is you need to pull aggro. In other words, pull the enemies towards you, keep them away from your teammates, take the damage, and pretty much just wipe out as many as you can while your team's pretty much backing you up, helping you, staring at a distance, or if DPS are there, usually help you out as well. But really, you're the tank, so you're pretty much like the Hawk. You're pretty much like I've been basically saying to most people. You're pretty much just, you pretty much are like the big guy to stand up in the front lines, grab the ads, pretty much pull them away from your team, pretty much get as much of the ads near you as possible, do enough damage, stay alive, be tough as you can, have enough power, because most of the time, tanks also depend on the trolls to buff up their power, and most of the time, they need heals. To explain that, it's just pretty much just depending on your power, like where it says here, fire, ice, earth, rage, and atomic are all tank roles. To explain what the tanks need, you pretty much just go here. Usually I'll just use the inventory, the stats here. You're definitely going to need a lot of dominance. For one, because like I said, the aggro pull, and to keep yourself, alive at all times, to be tough enough so you're like a fucking wall. Excuse my language. You're going to need might. You're definitely going to need power. You're definitely going to need health. And I'm pretty sure one of these days is going to say defense, which I don't really need because look at the defense on this guy. This guy has defense, but he's DPS, so I'll explain all that. And you look at it, when you look at, you go to your skills here and you look at the weapons, you look for dominance, which is right there. You pretty much look for some might, health, obviously, and of course you're going to need, which I don't think there it is, power. And without those, you're pretty much be a weak tank. The thing about tank, though, the reason why I say it's hard sometimes to be a tank, it's a tough job. I'm not saying it's hard to do unless you know how to be a tank. But the thing about it that's so tough is that the skill points require to have a lot. Around like 230 something maybe. That's my biggest hint right there. I would say is the best. This is not about what the best weapons are for each role. But if you would like a video for that, I can tell you. Usually I see tanks with like dual wields and all that, maybe one-handed or pretty much brawling weapons help them too. I mean, it just depends on how you really want your character. I'm not even going to go through all that. So again, tanks pretty much focus on pulling aggro, which means you have to pull the ads, take the damage, etc. It's pretty simple as that. Now we're going to move on to the healers, which is what I'm so good at. The reason why I say this is because healing was actually the biggest thing before I became DPS, when I first started the game and all that stuff. But anyway, healers, what did they do? You're probably wondering, I'm new to the game. How do I play as a healer? I never done this before. I want some tips. So, Infinity, what can you tell me about a healer? Well, it says it right here. Healers are supposed to keep your team alive. In other words, they heal your team, they keep them fighting by replenishing their health pools. In other words, just keeping them alive, say plain simple. The healer's job is to pull out the heals every single time, no matter what. No matter what raid you're in, what alert you're in, anything like that in general, you're going to need to pull aggro. You need to pull heals. Sorry about the aggro. That was a mistake. No, but you need to pull heals every single time. And the more heals you give out, the better chance of you keeping your team alive. And your result for your heal outs will be great. I would know this because I've been experienced with healing roles for the past 4 or 5 years. And it's very, very good that I know this because nature is just #1 on my list. As far as sorcery and everything else goes, I've actually played around with some other roles, so we'll see what happens. However, so healer pretty much focuses on restoration, which I will go all the way over here and just use Metallic as an example. Even though he's not anything but a DPS, I'm just going to use this as an example on this chart. So the stats, you need to have a lot of restoration no matter what, and it's important to have restoration when you're a healer because you're pretty much giving heals over time, whereas you focus on giving out not power. You give power to yourself. So like your power pull, your vite, and all that is just pretty much your power over time, but you don't need that for a healer. Healers only need restoration and power. Why do they need power? To get power back from the troller, and restro to, pretty much have your healing over time. Your restro is important because if you do not have restro and you're trying to give out heals, the chances of you giving out heals on your crits will probably be around 100, 200% health chance, which is low because you're giving out so much. You want to give out more, at least like 4,000 or more. Unless you give out amazing heals, then that's a different story. But for those that are new to healing, pretty much you got to have restoration no matter what. So going back over to the role section, which I'm not going to queue up for anything yet because I will later or after the video or something, I don't know. So healers, pretty much, you see right there. That's their role. You see nature, electricity, celestial, and of course, sorcery is all healer types. So again, healers require to heal your team. Okay? So like I said, pay attention to the video because it's important that you know this. Okay? Healer's job to give out heals. You know, restoration is always important because with enough restoration, dude, your heals are going to be like OP as hell. And the troll will have a hard time keeping up with you, which is, I think, the most toughest thing about trolls, which is like, you know, the second most big problem is keeping up with the healers. I've seen some trolls literally have a hard time keeping up with the healers, and it's just absolutely crazy. And I'm a really expert healer, so a lot of people like me being a healer. They say I'm good at healing. So a little bit of bad comments I get, but other than that, I haven't really got that many mean comments. Some just hate because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But really, I haven't been getting any bad comments about healing because I've learned since I played it on the PS3 like a couple of years back. But anyway, moving on. Next thing we're going to talk about is controllers. And I've been saying to Society the one time and a few other people, there hasn't been really much trolling going on. Where's all the trolls at? Now, like I said, the game is kind of broken. The reason why I say it's broken is because the fact that, for one, you know, DC changed a lot ever since, you know, a couple years back. If you've seen it on my main channel, you can go check that out. I think I have it up there. I don't know if I do or not. I probably took it down. Probably a couple years ago when I had it on my main channel, pretty much it was showing like people queuing up for raids, but having a group to queue up for it. Here now is different because you don't do that. You just have a group that you want and just go in it. Like, you know, you just queue up for it. You can't just like walk in it. Nothing. It just, that's how it is. So anyway, troller roles. What did trolls do? Now, troller equals controller. I'd say troll, for example, for shortness because that's really what we call it nowadays. Controllers is pretty much to disable enemies and regenerate the teammate's power pool. In other words, you're reducing the damage as well as giving back power. Yes, trolls can do that. How, you may ask? Well, it's pretty simple. When the enemy starts attacking, usually, you know, you clip your... Some people clip their weapon masteries with their power and so forth, so on. How does that happen? Well, you pretty much just give your teammate a power that reduces the damage. And when in other words, when the ad hits the enemy, what's the teammates, your teammates, they don't get hit as much. Like, they don't get, their health doesn't drop so fast. They get hit like minimum or so, unless it's like, you know, whatever, they get hit hard but they're still alive and they get half health, then they're still okay. And power is pretty much the blue bar, which of course I show you right there. Blue bar, power; green bar, health. Blue bar, power; green bar, health. And what do you need for power? That's a good question. So since you have me as the expert of the all, don't know much about everything else, but you know. Anyway, I don't want to brag. So with power, you need to have vitalization. What vitalization is pretty much your power over time. You need to have power over time to give people power back over time. Pretty simple, right? The more power over time you give back, the better chance of them able to use their loadout constantly, their powers, and just burn out quick. Which is pretty much where DPS comes into play, which I will get into. So when you use power, Vite is important. I'll show you where to put the stuff at. Excuse my language. Again, I'm using crap. I can't use that on YouTube. So Vite right here, important. You need to have a lot of Vite. Power, Vite. Also, you're going to need to give out some power critical chance, you know, because you need to buff up the power no matter what. So, two things to remember. Your Vite and your power is important because power you get back, Vite is like power you give over time. And your crits are pretty much how much you give back as a power as long as you're a troller, okay? If you want to know a good weapon for it, even though I said this is not a weapon tutorial shit, brawling would good because it has that weapon mastery. You mix that with martial arts. You put brawling, martial arts together, and you can pretty much do a clip with your power, which pretty much gives you power back, as well as like a jump cancel and all that, you know, so forth, so on. Okay. So this is just learning the rules. It's not about weapons. But if you have questions for it, or you think I should do a video for it, I mean, I can try. I'm not really an expert at weapons and all that, but we can pretty much do something with that. Or you can talk to people in DC and ask them that, but it's up to you. This is just a role tutorial. Next thing we're going to talk about now is, of course, last but not least, DPS. DPS, you're wondering, what does that even mean? What the hell is DPS? You keep mentioning it in the video. What are you talking about? I'm talking about damage per second. DPS stands for damage per second. What does damage per second do? Well, damage rolls is pretty simple. They damage. That gives me a good laugh. Anyway, but no, damage rolls are pretty much the ones to eliminate all enemies as quickly and effectively as possible. All types can be filled as damage. So when you're DPS, any power goes. Celeste, sorcery, nature, fire, ice, gadgets, the whole 9 yards. But by the way, controllers also are mental gadgets like quantum and mutations. And then you pretty much already know. I forgot to mention that earlier, but you probably already see it in the video, so it's okay. What do damage rolls need to do? Well, the opposite of what tanks normally will do is to go out there and cause serious damage. When you're DPS, you need to do enough damage to knock out the enemies and pretty much get through with your group fast enough through the raids. So more chance of damage you do, the better chance the raid will get done easily, and you work as a team. DPS also usually required to have at least around 100 to 200 something skill points to clear out that damage. I've seen some people with 200, some people with 100, some people with less than that. Because most people don't really focus on skill points, and I think they should, because it's going to be important as years go by. So, if anything, damage DPS is important. Now, you're probably going to wondering, with most of the DPS powers, what do you mainly focus on? And I'm going to explain that. There's only two things you need to know. Some focus on might, some focus on precision. Precision is your weapon damage. Might is the amount of damage you give out. Some usually just focus on one thing. Some focus on both. And some, well, focus on more than that. So when you're mental, of course, might is important. But when you're hard light, it's more likely to be precision and all that, I guess you can say. But, I mean, it depends on the power. But they're pretty much all the same. The only things that are different is just the power and the loadouts. Same thing with controlling. They're all the same, except gadgets is different because there's no supercharge for it unless you use Word of Power, which, if you want to know where Word of Power is, you go here in your iconics and it's right there. See, that's Word of Power. Okay, so DPS require usually to have might or precision. So to look at that, you go to your weapons and just pretty much find one that has might, precision, bow, critical attack, precision, might and precision. Pretty much anything that has that. You might even need some power back. You never know. Stuff like that. So DPSing, pretty simple. Do out the most damage. If you do not do the most damage, you will die. If you do not give out the most heals, you will die. As far as power is concerned, you could pretty much for every role. If you don't give out as much needed for the team, and pretty much the ads go crazy on you, you will die. So you need to keep that in mind when you're playing DC, no matter what. Not that I'm big on DC nowadays like that. I just come and go. Because yeah, I just figured I'd make a tutorial on this. I figured because nobody ever mentioned me making a video for it, so I decided to make one myself. So if anybody checks the channel out, you know where to find it. So, again, so just to make sure you guys get it one last time, and then I'm going to end it from here. Tank rolls. Tank rolls is to keep the enemy attention and damage focused on you and away from the rest of your team. The powers are fire, ice, earth, rage, and atomic. And I have some friends that do that. What do tanks do? Pull aggro. Pretty much pull the ads towards you and pretty much prevents damage from your team. The damage only focusing on you. So pretty much you're just pulling them, attacking them, get away from your team as possible. Healers. Healers, our only job is to give out heals. Our job is to give out heals to keep your team alive, replenish their health, and just keep them alive. The more resto you give out, the better, because the chances of you not, they will die. Trolling. Trolling is a power pull as well as damage resistance, which means if you or your team gets damaged, they won't be hurt as much when their health won't drop as much when they're getting hit. Power, pretty much giving back their power to use their powers to fight the enemy and do crazy shit ton of damage. And last but not least, like I explained, DPSing is the one who does all the damage, pretty much just going out there and striking with your weapon, your powers, and to pretty much knock the enemy out fast. That's how you explain each and every role, and so forth, so on. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to give it a like and a thumbs up on the video. Like that thumbs up. And subscribe to this channel. Make sure you check out any other recent game videos that I have posted. Ones with, hockey and all that. You can check out NHL 17. Don't worry about what you see in the descriptions if it's not there. It's because, one, I need to get a computer, and two, I need to start doing some edits. I might work with some people and try to get my stream fixed up. You can also check me out on Twitch TV. It's Mr. Infinity. It's pretty simple. It says it up in a banner. I got to get a new one too. Everything's going to be adjusted around. It's been really busy lately, but that's why I haven't been doing much videos and all that. So I'll try to put up as much as I can. But with that being said, my name's Infinity. This is DC Universe Online MMO, and by the way, it's free. Don't worry about PlayStation Plus. You don't need it unless they change the rules around. But yeah. So that being said, I'm Infinity. Metallic says adios, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good day.